Good evening, everyone. DeathClock Dave here, and welcome to another DeathClock Dave live stream battle report recap. This evening we had myself, DeathClock Dave, playing my standard Axis Orion Destruction Initiative pairing versus Pat. Pat, what were you playing?
I was playing Madrak1 with the all-troop list that's been making the rounds, but with a slight change in the fact that I brought a Mountain King.
Alrighty. And what was your other list?
My other list was Cold-Grima in a Power of Dunia list.
Okay.
Nice big beast brick.
All right, perfect. And we were playing a Scenario 3 this evening, which is Spread the Net. I won the roll to go first, or won the roll and decided to go first. So, guys, if you're enjoying the content that we're creating, please be sure to hit like on that video, subscribe to the channel for new content. You can also follow me on Facebook by searching for DeathClock Dave. And our guys also actively watch the comments on the Facebook group and also on YouTube if you guys have any questions or comments about the matchups at all. So, Pat, what was your considerations when you saw what I was playing and what you were playing? What was your listing and thoughts? So.
I saw what you were playing, and I knew from your previous battles you'd been playing Orion. So I figured you'd most likely be putting Axis into me, and to be honest, with the addition of the Mountain King to this list, I wanted to test out this list because I've played it against a few other people, and it's not bad. But I honestly, the biggest thing was I thought the viewers might not like to see a straight up rematch. So
Gotcha.
Axis versus Cold-Grima seemed dropped a few points. So.
Yeah. And looking at Pat's pairing, I do not like Cold-Grima, and Cold-Grima loves playing against Orion because her feat completely shuts him down. So he's pretty sad for a turn. So I figured Axis was going to be the right choice, and I also wanted sprays for days to be able to shoot down all of his dudes if he did choose the dude spam. So Spread the Net, we have 2 rectangular zones that can be controlled by Warcaster, Warlock, Warbeast, Warjack, Battle Engine, a central circular zone which is Warcaster, Warlock units, and then we have 2 flags which are Warcaster, Warlock solos. So I have a total of let's just see, add the one, so carry the 1 unit on my side. The circle isn't looking too good for me. Pat has about 17 units on his side. We both have solos, and we both have Jacks and Beasts to put in the zone. Pat only has the solos. One. Yes, and we both make solos, so lots of solos there. So for my deployment, I was scared of the champs. The champs are the big thing for me. I wanted to make sure I could put my Teps in spots where I could potentially be spraying kind of around that house. The house in the middle is a bit of a pain in the butt. The wall at the top is also a pain because obviously I can't land my base on there, so I was trying to figure out where my Tep was going to end up landing. So I've got them as centrally as possible. I've got my 1 inverter down near the bottom Tep just to be there for the countercharge knockdown, and diffuser down there as well. Corollary in the middle, Axis is in the middle. I wanted to make sure Axis was as central as possible to spread out that feed as best possible. I put my 2 heavies to the left of my left Tep, and that's probably, I think that was one of my big mistakes for this game, is I got so concerned about the champs to put my Teps central that my 2 heavies ended up being fairly out of position because I figured he was probably going to put his Mountain King pretty centrally. So that's my my deployment before my AD. So Pat, how are you deploying?
Well, for my deployment, I wanted the King a little harder to the left because your rectangular zone was further forward, and honestly, I kind of made an early decision to commit heavily to the left side and just plow in as hard as I could.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't care about that lovely rubble that's right in front of him. He can just waddle right through that.
Exactly. So. And I figured, I've got Pathfinder in the army, yes, but it's a lot easier if the King just does it himself. The Krells are up at the top there. They're a bit more of a decoy, which as you'll see later, actually worked better than I thought. Meanwhile, I had my Fenblades at the bottom with keeping Madrak, the Stone, and the champions all huddle up pretty close to the king because I have a min stone, so my aura is not that big, so it gives it a really hard center while the troops are the soft nougat on the outside.
Yeah, Madrak is pretty. He doesn't have a huge control range either, so you kind of have to try to keep things relatively close. So.
Yeah. So, and here we're just getting
ready.
You're
just laying out your cards and stuff. So
I'm old-fashioned. I actually still play with cards, but that way no one can ever get mad at me when my device shuts down.
Yes, I also play with cards. I just play with them in a sheet. So this is me deploying my my advanced deploy. So I've got reflex servitors. Just double-checking. I knew that the king could assault and spray, so just double-checking he can go, I think he threats 18 inches or something like that, right?
Yep.
So just making sure I didn't stupidly put a servitor where he could potentially, or just trying to be mindful of where I ended up putting my servitors. I wanted to put them in spots so that when the Fenblades at the bottom flank started moving forward, the attack from the reflex servitors actually is not considered to be, the damage is not considered to have been caused by an attack. So I wanted to try to clear out some of those Fenblades while not proccing Vengeance. So there is a handshake. Me again double checking where not to put things for the Mountain King to be able to get a free spray. His spray hits hard, so
and of course I'm fairly new to playing the Band of Heroes list, so I'd actually forgotten that one of the benefits is the additional 2 inches.
Right.
So I'm setting up on the normal 10-inch line for the second player, which I really think made a big difference, and certainly seen you later in the game.
Yeah, that extra 2 inches is great, because I'm also an extra 2 inches on for my destruction and initiative, so that that ends up putting us a lot closer. I also got some free solos, and all of my my servitors became shield guards for the theme, and you get no tough, potentially.
Yeah, no tough, and remove from play on all warrior models, which is just about everything in this list.
Gotcha. Cool. So I activated my corollary first, like a good Convergence player, to make sure that he got that focus. I believe I allocated one focus out to either end of the focus chain to make sure that it all came through to the center and eventually potentially to the corollary. Just want to make sure everybody was running to the right position. I cast Onslaught for the Relentless Charge for everybody, and I put Onslaught, and I put Iron Aggression on the inverter on my right flank. I charged Axis as well. I charged the Mountain King to get as far forward as possible, and that also allowed me to have Pathfinder on the charge through that forest to get farther up again. I wanted to make sure I was as far up as possible to be able to apply my feat. My reflex servitors moved up and just dug in, getting ready for some Fenblades and Krell to be coming in. And ran my diffuser up, ran my Tep to the max distance just to get him in a good position, trying to move sort of to the side of the house, basically just to square off against his champions. His champions terrified me, and I wanted to make sure that on my feat turn I was spraying down as many of those bad boys as possible, because you can't ignore them. They have 2 attacks each. They're weapon masters, and it's just bad times if they get to you. So they were my main focus in terms of trying to blunt his offensive output on the way in. But he has a lot of dudes. So other servitors are just running into position. So I've got elimination servitors at the very top there. I wanted them to square off against the Krell because they were so far out. They were probably not going to be able to benefit from his defense bonus spell because it's within 12-inch control. So they were going to be able to shoot at Def 12 trolls and do an auto point. I've got my arc node there primarily just to get in a position to camp the flag at the top. Here I'm just moving all of my models around illegally because that's how I like to roll. Again, just yes, moving all my servitors into play there. And I believe I also spent some time trying to figure out where my heavies at the top flank are going to go versus where the... actually, did I already activate them? Yes, I already activated them and ran them forward to make sure that they are in a position where they could start being relevant, and I got my Tep up there as well. So we're over to Pat's turn.
Yep, so here we go. I start off by activating my Fell Caller on the top of the screen so that he can give the Krell Warriors the call that gives them Pathfinder so they can ignore the forest and really just run right up there to try to set the line of engagement at a decent pace. So... because what I really want to do is I want to get the Krell Warriors as close and in Dave's face as I can, even though they're a sacrificial unit. They're bait. They're glorified bait, and they don't do too bad with it.
Yeah. And they're good for contesting and stuff.
Oh,
too,
definitely. Because I mean, honestly, a zone with one like this where there's 2 zones that you need a war beast in my case to score, and I've only got 1 war beast.
Yeah,
it is a little tricky.
Yeah.
But it's still doable to get some good points. And as I mentioned before, I want to keep that solid core with the king. Kind of use it like the tip of the drill bit to kind of go in there, and the fen blades and stuff. I'm running them up so that I can get them as far up as possible.
And here I made a mistake because I was thinking initially that for some reason I got in my head that the reflex servitor's attack was only on my activation or something. Their special attack or their attack that does damage but is not considered from an attack, and I should have countercharged them in to hit some of the fen blades before he got his defense spell up. So that was a mistake on my part. I had meant to do that, but for whatever reason I just thought that was on my activation.
And I did make a point here of measuring it out so that no 2 fen blades would get caught in the same blast.
Yes, 4-inch AoE centered on your unit, on your dude, so you got them spread out well enough that I wasn't going to hit multiple dudes, because PAL 14 is good, not counter from an attack. My plan for the fen blades is to try to get damage on them without actually triggering vengeance if at all possible. So.
Yeah, and here I'm moving up the champion unit with Scaldy. Now I admit I made a positioning error because I was more focused on keeping them all base to base after losing 1 or 2 guys.
Yes.
So that resulted in me making a slanted rectangle. And
yes, I was so happy. I was like, "Woo! I'm gonna get to shoot with my teps," because I've only ever shot with a tep like once, and it was very suboptimal. And I'm like, "Yeah, they're in a Congo line, and I'm gonna be able to target one and hit everybody." So yeah, I was pretty excited.
I should have spread them out, maybe like in a flying V formation for anyone that knows hockey movies or something else. Just spread them out a little bit more, or even do 2 sets of 3 and But
and you riled your
champions in a brick are tricky. Yep. Riled the king up for 4 and then ran him up because he's the only one providing Madrak with the Fury. And I move up the stone. It does its thing and protects that core.
And then you drop Fury into it and they pop. And stuff. Yeah.
So.
Oh, and you got Mr. Eilish Garrity in the very back there, just running up. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Merc himself. He's a rather fun model and one of the few times I've gotten to use him, so I'm still trying to get the hang of him.
And you have, what's your defensive spell called again?
Even Ground.
Even Ground.
It gives +2 defense to all the models.
Friendly faction,
friendly faction models that are within Madrak's control. And they can't be knocked down, which for trolls is such a big thing.
This is the spell that I was dreading because the trolls normally at Def 12 is not a big deal. Normally you're more worrying about the armor, but bumping them up to Def 14 and the champs in melee become, I think, Def 16 or something stupid like that if they're base to base. So that's not good times. Even at Mat 7, that's not fun. So I was looking here. I knew this was going to be feat turn, so I was doing some checking with a proxy there to see how I was going to be able to catch the most possible. I wanted to try to blunt what the fen blades could do. I wanted to also catch Madrak in the back. It's hard to see, but he's kind of back behind the Mountain King there. I wanted to catch him to prevent how far he could move up for his throwing his axe and ricocheting. I probably got a little bit too greedy with how far up I moved, and I had a bit of a panic attack a little bit later in this turn. I'm also trying to figure out where I need to apply flares. Because these guys are so stinking high defense, I was going to have to try and hand out flares around to give like my reflex servitors and elimination servitors and my teps good things to actually, a chance to actually hit stuff. So,
I don't think you were too bad about worrying about that feat. You've got a really good feat.
It is.
The fact that it cuts 2 off of my armor and from my speed.
Yes.
That's pretty rough.
Yes, it
and
is.
The fact that it adds it to yours, it
is a very, very good feat for sure. So I probably got a little bit too greedy with how far forward I moved, but all good. So I moved forward with an elimination or with attunement servitor. Managed to, I believe I missed the fen blade, but I got him close enough so that it didn't matter. I can't notch deviate off of him. So same thing with the other attunement servitor. I got him close enough that basically it was just about impossible to fully miss, and I hit anyway. And I basically lit up that whole unit of champs with flare, which was awesome. I targeted the middle guy, and I believe it clipped all 5 guys. So
yes, it did.
So that drops them down to regular troll defense. I would have been happier with 10 defense, but you know.
Well, you can't have everything.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to see a little bit over the overlay, but there are a couple of Fen Blades down at the bottom. So there, I charged in with a reflex servitor, blew up the Fen Blade at the bottom, and he failed his tough. And I did not proc Vengeance, which was my plan. I've got another charge in. I believe I missed on that one and didn't do enough damage to matter. They're only cost 6 on the miss. So.
Yeah, it was because of that feat of yours that it was another reason I spread my troops out so far.
Yeah.
I knew it that way. I'd have the outside that could actually move in.
Against Axis, it is good to flank hard if you can to minimize what I can get in. So another Reflex Servitor got in there and took out another Fen Blade. So here I am figuring out where I'm going to go. So I move Corollary up first, again, a good Convergence player, making sure he gets his lovely free focus. Oh, no, sorry, that's not Corollary. That's the Diffuser moving up. And I believe I shoot with the Diffuser just to... actually, did I? Yes, I did the Corollary, I believe, first, and gave two focus to the Diffuser. The Diffuser moved up to put some damage on, start the damage train on the champs, try to make him spread it out as much as possible, and my hope was to try to kill as many champs as possible to try to neuter what they could do. So here I've moved Axis up, just double checking where I want his final placement to catch as much as possible. Don't care quite as much about the Krell on the top. I kind of want to more prevent what the Fen Blades can do, because with their mini feet they can go really far on the charge. He's also got tons of Pathfinder in this list, so I didn't do a whole lot. Normally with a Cypher I like to be popping 4-inch rough terrain AoEs out all over the place, but there's multiple... They do no good. Yeah, you've got the March on the 2 solos, and then you've got, I think, Relentless Charge on the champ, so lots of...
yeah, and the Mountain King doesn't care at all. So.
Yeah, exactly. So not as useful there. So the plan was to use a Cypher as a flare bot on the way in until we close to melee. So I do feat here after making sure I've got into a good position to catch everything. So that's going to give everything +2 speed. So here I'm figuring out where I can place my tep to get these juicy sprays, and it's going to be glorious. So here I use my huge base proxy just to kind of put myself just far enough ahead that I can catch all 5 dudes and be able to maximize what I can do there. I know I've kind of blunted his counterattack on his turn with my feet, so I'm just figuring out where I can go. And I've got lots of placement issues here based on where I'm going to put my teps and where my jacks are going to end up. Normally I like my jacks to be in a spot where they can countercharge if anything gets close, but there's lots of trying to figure out where my positioning is going to be. And here's my panic moment where I'm like, oh man, his Mountain King can't get to me, but if he thinks to run his Mountain King and then jackhammer, he could hit me. So at this point, I decide I have to put an inverter kind of in the way, and I'm trying to kind of put things in the way as much as possible to prevent him from being able to run up and get into a good spot to be able to start jackhammering onto my caster, because that could have been a really bad time. I was on, I think, no focus at that point, so that was definitely a positioning error.
Yeah, you used everything you had, so you were in 0 camp.
He threatens 10 on the run and then on the jackhammer, so that I knew that was going to be pretty scary. So that was, unfortunately, I ended up having to kind of put my inverter in such a place where his king was going to be able to get to me no problem, even with the speed debuff and not being able to charge and stuff. But it was the price to pay to make sure I didn't die on turn 2. And I apologize, guys. I believe we've the overlay doesn't get updated for a turn or 2 here. So.
But yeah, it was your math was a little off there, because with my Mountain King speed cut, he only goes 3. So
3. Well, you
wouldn't have quite made it.
Right. Oh,
so
yeah, right,
your panic was a little unneeded.
Right, because you go to 3 and it would have been running 6, 8. Oh, okay.
I reached 2, so that's an 8-inch.
Okay, so I would have been perfectly fine. So
that was another.
I could have kept that inverter back and had him for later in the game.
Yeah, so you sacrificed him a little early there.
That was my bad. So I moved my tep up. I threw all 3 of the servitors into damage to make sure I was putting as much damage as possible into the champs. I rolled. I believe I hit most of them. I might have missed maybe one or something, but I was needing 7s because they had the flare on them, so it dropped them back down to def 12. And I hit them, and I did I was rolling 5 dice damage at dice off 7, so that was a lot.
That was so lovely.
It was a lot of damage to spread around, so I was pleased with how that TEP did.
And this is how you don't make tough checks.
Yes. Yeah, no tough checks for you. I mean, you did roll some tough checks, but and which meant you didn't get knocked down, so that was nice. But I've got my attunement servitors up at the top, just shooting at trying to get close enough to the Krell to flare them and not miss, and then charging in with my, I believe I charged in with a reflex servitor. That guy rolled his tough, but then I just shot him with an auto point of damage. I think I rolled a double 1 on one of them, but just trying to get...
Yes, you did.
Yeah, just trying to get some shots because they are far enough out that they are not getting the defense bonus. So trying to thin off the Krell so they can't do quite as much. Just running my heavies to be in a position where I want to be in a spot where if his Krell moved forward, I could charge, so I've got Onslaught up so I can charge through the water without having to worry about the Pathfinder. Here I did move up, and I did put a rough terrain on that one guy just to force him to use the March call from the Fell Caller, just to force that. I mean, it's the +2 melee isn't a big thing when you're going against big stompy robots, but it was to force what he had to do. And I believe I also flared the Krell there in the middle, just at the corner or to the right of the circular zone. And here I'm figuring out where I can put my TEP to get some more shots on. So I want to make sure that I've left room to put my speed 7 now TEP. I'm going to move the house like a giant cheater head, so that's pretty great. So nestle up in there, and plan was to shoot down. I think I got maybe those 2 Krell?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I can't remember if I was in range to get both of them or not, but it might have just been one.
Yeah, it was actually good that you put down that rough terrain there, because that really did force me to have to use my Fell Caller to give them Pathfinder to get through it and engage your TEPs. Because without that, he was outside of your feet. So without it, I would have been able to just run clean over there, which would have made things very different up there.
And in hindsight, maybe I should have plunked another one right on one of the middle guys kind of thing. I just didn't, I was like, oh, I can hand it out anyway, so whatever. But, so I took out those, I believe those two Krell with the spray, so not a great activation with that. Oh, did I hit one of the champs as well?
Oh, yeah.
It might have been...
Yes, you did.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so did some good damage to the champions, cleared out a couple of Krell, and I believe this is over to you.
Yes, it is. It's over to me now. And
we also lay out some beads, I think, just to kind of clear up who is not in the feed.
Yes, we decided it's a little easier to just use some beads to mark them out, because, the models, some of them are pretty close, some of them are, hairs out, so... We wanted to make sure everything was clear as to who could run full distances, who could charge, things like that. So honestly, it's a pretty good feat, and it'll make you stop and think for a minute, which I end up thinking for a couple of minutes. To be honest.
Oh, and I put the razor wall down in front of
those 2 fen blades.
To try to block where they can charge, because that will do an auto point, and again, not trigger vengeance. So.
Exactly, and I've learned from previous games against other people that auto points are kind of a bad thing, even for trolls.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what to do here. I do see Axis there, and he's close. I actually started thinking about doing the way you were talking about, but I started realizing that the math didn't quite work, and I realized that honestly, I'm the type of player, I know one of my weaknesses is playing for a scenario. So I decided, you know what, it's a little too risky of a chance. The math isn't great on that, and then as I was thinking further on, I realized I couldn't actually reach it. So that made it even worse.
Yeah, and we were just checking the distances. I did purposely leave my TEP just outside to make sure my TEP didn't get just walked up and pounded on or whatever.
Exactly. So I decided, now I gotta deal with the jack down here, and
they can't see you pointing at.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying to say, don't motion to you which one's that thing, because it's converging.
The inverter in front of the bottom TEP. Yes.
The inverter, yes. I'm sorry, I can't tell all your things apart. They're just shiny hunks of chrome that are looking to be eaten by a slag.
Yep.
So I wanted to get rid of that TEP down there.
Nope, you wanted to get rid of the inverter. Yep.
I wanted to get rid of that, and I knew I was going to use my king for that, but you know, having a speed 3 king makes things a little tricky and kind of annoying.
And man, I wish I had done my math right, because to have that inverter just back in between the TEP and like Axis, oh, that would have been glorious for the next turn.
It really would have been, but
mistakes were made.
Yep, that's okay. Everybody makes them.
Yep.
I know. Besides, they're not mistakes. They're learning opportunities, man.
Yeah,
come on.
Exactly.
Be positive here. So I start realizing that, you know, I've got to get my king up to deal with the jack, and I got to move my fen blades up and start engaging. Now, for some reason, I got in my head that I couldn't charge, and that messed me up late, or that I couldn't run. So that messed me up later with the fen blades.
So there was a run, and I charge in, and I hit you but knocked you down. So.
Exactly, you knocked me down just before, because that was actually a charge up there, because I messed up afterwards.
Yeah.
So I charged your inverter up there, and then you
charged one of the little balls. And then
one of the little balls, and then you came along and knocked me down for it.
Yep, and then I did another charge.
After that, it was just sort of, well, let's bait him out to see how much I can get him to pull away from the rest of the army.
Yeah. I wanted to try to kill as many Krell as possible with the eventual goal of maybe getting into that zone, but
the long story short, Krell make excellent bait.
Yeah, and it is pulling me way out of position, because those jacks are now so far away from the Mountain King, where they kind of want to be, that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so. they'll never see action again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you're swinging at a couple of servitors, I believe.
Oh yeah, taking a couple of basic shots, and it's not much I can do, but I get a little few points.
Yeah,
they're doing what they're doing. They're just enough to be annoying and to draw attention to.
It's tying up 2 heavies right now. So
exactly, and for an 11-point unit. How many points are your 2 jacks?
Way more than 11.
So there you go, folks.
Yeah.
Job well done.
Yeah.
Not to mention you've got all your little assassin bots up there. So.
Yeah. Everybody pew-pewing for a single point of damage.
Exactly. So now I start working down here. I believe it's on the fen blades I get working with next. And as I say, I got a little off. I'm not quite sure how I got thinking about that, but I didn't realize here that if I moved him up 4. It would actually get him he was within 6 of Axis himself, so I figured, let's take the shot. And I think that might have been how I got the 4 stuck in my head, because I remember the 4 was so important there. So I made a point of moving the 4 inches up everywhere else.
Right. Oh, because this is where you forgot that you couldn't run. Right. So you kind of move initially 4, and then we're like, oh yeah, if you want to, you can move an extra 4, I guess, because it puts you at speed. You go down to speed 4, so you run 4-8. So,
exactly.
Which is good, because that meant that you could then put something in.
Yeah, I could actually get the rest more fen blades in. Yeah. I could get them into the zone
to make it harder for me to score on the following. Is this scoring? Yes, because this is a scoring turn,
exactly.
So you didn't want to not be.
Yes, it's very important to me. I'm the second player. It's my second turn, so this is where scoring becomes a very important thing. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like the second player on their second turn, from there on, they kind of control things.
Yes, if you can get ahead, especially on Spread the Net is one where it's not super hard to score on your sides.
No.
So Pat is contesting both my flag up at the top. He's got Krell close enough. Oh, that's the other. That's why I was countercharging there. I was trying to prevent you from contesting.
Contesting that flag. Yep. Yeah. But he just knocked me down.
Yep.
Which is close, but
yeah.
So then, but I really wanted to make sure I got those fen blades down the bottom, which one of them's partially covered by the overlay here.
So it looks like you got 2 in the zone there.
Yeah.
Yep. You took a couple of swings too. I think you swung at Axis, but you missed.
Yeah, I did. I took a swing at I took a swing at Axis, but it was a dice off 8. So the dice came up, I believe, a 6.
Right,
which,
gotcha.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
But although it was appropriate, because David joked earlier about chipping his paint job. And,
yes.
So sure enough, I got a fen blade scratching his armor.
Didn't quite break the armor. Yeah.
Nope.
Just gave it a little center.
Just gave it a little buff with the tip of my sword. Just a spot here or two. So with that not working out too great, I figured, that's it. It's time to move the king in. So what I did here was, I knew I really wanted to have the king be effective here. So I made a point of having, I believe it was this turn where I activated Madrak first, and I put Guided Hand on him to give him that boost at first.
Which is effectively Deadeye for your melee attack, so additional dice in the first melee attack.
Yeah, additional dice for the first melee for only 2 points, for only 2 fury, which can't really go wrong with that.
Now, I did see a couple of times when you could have saved yourself some fury, because the Troll Moses actually has Spell Slave. So he could have actually cast that for you.
Yeah.
And I think at least one turn, I think you might have forgotten Harmonious Exaltation as well.
Well, actually, what I did, that was this turn here.
Oh, okay.
I held him back on purpose because if the Mountain King didn't finish off your Jack, I was going to have my Rune Bearer
Jackhammer. I see. Nice. That's a good call.
Because it's perfect because
which you almost didn't finish him off. Turns out.
Exactly. And because I realized for my best bet, I mean the Mountain King, he's not great for his stats. I mean he's a beast for taking damage, but he's still got a good decent enough chance at missing.
Yeah. Is he mat 6?
I believe he's so.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's not great. So I wanted to make sure that I hit you. But
puppet strings on there too. Looks like.
Yeah, puppet strings from the occultist.
Mr. Eilish. Yeah.
Yeah, and but I wanted to hold on to that jackhammer ability after, so that way I make sure that I get things done because I do not want that jack around there because I measured it out and the jack is just within 4 of the flag, and I'd moved my fell collar, my white fell collar, up to that flag, trying to claim it as mine.
Yes.
Now I admit, apparently I mismeasured, and I thought only the jack was within the 4.
Right, and this is where one of the permutation servitors, at least one of them, was in as well. So
yeah, one of them was just a hair in.
Clipping, yeah.
So here we go. I finally got all the buff stuff added up to the king. So I just moved in and. It's time to go to town on your jack.
Yeah. So there was some. I think you missed. Did you miss like 2 or 3 times or something?
Yeah.
It was getting to the point where I think you had 1 attack left.
Yeah, I missed a couple times.
And I still had 5 boxes left or something like that. So it was. Yeah. I was like, oh, maybe I'll live, but because I think my mechanics might have even been close enough to get to him. So.
Almost, but that's why I put that puppet strings on there so that I knew if I ended up in the situation, I'd have a reroll.
Yes,
which I do end up using.
Yes, because missing 2 or 3 of your attacks was bad times because you're also -2 strength right now. So
exactly, which luckily I activated the stone first, which using the Elder's or stone strength aura gave me the +1 to counteract it a little.
Yes.
Now here's where I destroyed his jack, and that allowed me to do my kill shot, which caught 2 of the balls. His, I believe it's a corollary.
The caster and the diffuser.
Yeah, a caster and the diffuser. Yeah. So I start yelling at them, and I actually didn't do too bad for Axis.
You hit him, and did you do any damage to him that time? Or this is where you did some damage, and I knew I had to start moving back or something?
Exactly.
I can't really remember, because it was dice off 2, I think.
Yeah, it's a PAL 16 yell.
Yeah, you missed I think you missed the front ball.
I did.
You did some damage to the diffuser.
To the diffuser, yeah. But it turns out people, COC casters, don't like it when you speak angrily at them.
They're very sensitive. They don't like you yelling.
Especially if you're the size of a building.
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, at that point I was like, okay, feat's over, so I need to make sure I definitely start getting my Axis back out of the way.
And during this turn, I forgot to mention before, I had Madrak activate his feat to heal up Scaldy and my champion.
This is D3 plus 3.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I
can't you can't charge me.
Yes, which is huge. Charge or slam. The only way to get around it is to trample, but that's you're sacking your initials to do that. So
yep.
So here over to my turn. Take away the rings.
And then you can't trample medium bases.
That's true. Yes, exactly. Trample up to you and whack your king is the only way I can get around it, basically. So I have I dropped the Razor Wall. For some reason, he didn't run his Fen Blades into it like I was hoping. And here I'm just figuring out how I can what I can do to start clearing as much as possible. I want to try to clear my flag at the top. I know that my jacks on the left flank are just so far out of position. I wasn't even at this point worried about getting them in the fight with the king because I would have had to run for 1 turn and then maybe the following turn close enough to start charging, which maybe was the right call, but I knew I was getting low on time as well, and I wanted to try to be scoring on my flag and also scoring on that top zone eventually if I could, to try to put Pat a little bit on the back foot, and I got to the point where I knew I wanted to play for turn 7. And just basically to the point where I'm scoring at least a couple of points a turn, staying up on points, doing very quick, short turns while still contesting, and then hit turn 7 and be up on points.
And you did a good job of that because my mistake with the measurement it put me off a little bit, but it words. It meant that, here we are, going into turn 3, and I wasn't up the 1 point, which as player 2, you really want to try to start that attrition early.
Yeah, for sure.
So
here I used my elimination servitors to shoot a couple of times. I knew I was a little bit on the back foot here now, and I believe this is the turn that you left Madrak on 0 Fury.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, if I can get a flare on him, so I was able to get a attunement servitor close enough that I couldn't not deviate off of him. I think I might have rolled high enough anyway to hit, but I hit. I flared both him and Moses, and then I move up with my Teps. I can't remember if I'm doing the Teps right now or not. I think I might be doing the left-hand Tep. Yeah, so I did. I put 1 into attack and 2 into damage, so I'm rolling. I need to hit, with the flare, I need to hit 9s, I think. You go down to def 14. And I'm a 5, so I need... 9s to hit. Exactly. And then I'm doing 4 dice damage at dice -7. So that was pretty huge. So I did quite a lot of damage to him.
Oh, you really did.
And then the second Tep goes up and does the same. I believe I put 2 into... Oh, he was actually able to sit to aim because he was close enough to sit to aim. So he did 2 into damage and 1 into extra attack. And I cranked the damage again. I did a fair amount. You used your scroll of Googaboo to make
scroll
sure.
Of Grimmar.
Yeah, there you go. to basically make it so I didn't roll a damage roll.
So use that once you're hit. Yeah. You just automatically say nope, you're done.
Yeah,
and it
before I even roll the damage. And I missed 1 attack. I think I left you on 5 after this. I moved up the diffuser. I think
it was 4.
4. Okay.
It was close.
I moved up and shot with the diffuser as well. The diffuser, I can't remember. Oh, he just rolled 18, so it didn't do any damage. So it was very, very close to forcing a tough roll on Madrak, but I've made Madrak kind of fear for his life a little bit there. I was also having a look to see, because I had 3 focus on Axis, I was having a look to see if I could get my arc node possibly close enough to Madrak to put a spell into him, but my arc node was way up by the far flag, so there's no way I was going to be able to get to him, especially with the water in the way. So I just decided to make sure I keep Axis safe. I think Axis might have even just run. I think so. He ran to the far side of the zone. I think he still has, or on the far side of the circular zone, I think he still has the Fury, or the focus didn't go with him. I think he has at least 2 left on him. And that was me just trying to do as much as I could to not lose on attrition and not get Axis kills.
And at this point, I'm starting to feel the crunch for time as well. So I moved up my champion to try to deal with that Tep, to deal with the deer ball, because I wanted to clear out things for the Mountain King. Now I get thinking here. I believe this is where we ended up pausing the clock for just a brief moment.
Possibly, yes, because I think you wanted to confirm Madrak was really, really low, and you wanted to confirm when
he was very low on health. Yes. He was down to his last 4 health, and I had a little mental lightning bolt there, and brainstorm happened, and I realized some things could happen. So, but right now we're just doing the Fen Blades here because I just want to clear out all your servitors because those things I've had enough of them. I want to get them out.
Yeah, you know what's great? They come back.
Yeah, they come back the very next day, like that stupid cat.
Yeah, it's good times.
So I've done that, which also means I can have a little more freedom to move around and get things in. Of course, he hurt me last. He just barely hurt the king last time, so just enough to cause a whelp. So I run the whelp out to contest. He countercharges to destroy the whelp.
Yep. Making sure I did not get out of my zone. That was the big thing, as I wanted to make, because I figured my Tep was going to be dead, but I wanted to put my diffuser in a spot where I was contesting my zone and out of the range of the
next turn
king.
We did that.
It was next turn. Okay.
Yeah. So here I've got the Mountain King going into the Tep because I've really had enough of these things. They're making too many balls. They're spraying things, and they're just rude. So I think it's time to put a fist down that and give it a little downtime because it's a little bit rude being that shaped on the table for this long. Besides, who needs 2 of them? I mean, come on.
And it takes all of your fury to do it.
Yes, there are some dice rolls that
yeah,
were not good. I
yeah.
should have probably done a little
So
bit
I
of
was
beefing
almost
up.
I was almost left with a TEP still on the board because you were on your last fury.
Yes, I was.
So yes, I did countercharge on that turn, so you can see that my diffuser is touching both of those zones. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't a way that he could control the bottom zone because he's just got his caster and his mountain king to do that.
And
this point, at some point, we paused to find out when the healing could happen.
Yes, because
when you spent your fury.
Yeah, I went and we confirmed with the fellow here that is very good with the rules, a very top-notch player, Corey Doyle.
He's the worst.
So he says. But hey, he's the only guy I know that wins hard on Vegas without wearing pants. But he did confirm it. So what I do here is when I come back, I use all of Madrak's fury to heal himself because it's during the caster's activation. And when I do that though, so that gives me 5 health back. That gets me up to a solid 9. And then I use the fury manipulation rule to allow me to pull fury off the stone because right now I've got 4 fury sitting in that stone.
Yeah. So that was, you were able to heal yourself up 5, I think.
Yeah, healed up for 5, gained 4 fury back, which
Yeah.
gave me enough to, because you killed my rune bear on during his last turn. That gave me enough to cast even ground again and to camp 1.
Right.
Which just makes me that much more survivable.
Which also doesn't matter though because you're maxed out on fury though, right? So you wouldn't have been able to turn. But yes, it was a good trick to be able to heal yourself up and still cast even ground. That was good to have.
Exactly. And here I used the fell collar at the bottom there to put Pathfinder on the stone unit because they're going to go in the rubble, and they move up to not only being base to base with Madrak for the stone aura, but to make a Krell shield for him from that side in case some of those little assassin balls come out to try to snipe him.
Yeah, and I think you're only at 4 inches on the stone right now, but that's really what matters because I've got
everything
Madrak,
touching it. So my fell collar at the top takes out the couple of servitors that were on him, so it's just him and the jack up there in the zone.
Yeah, and he did not move, so he sacked his movement, so I was not able to countercharge. I was hoping I was going to be able to
countercharge.
I was hoping I could countercharge and then score that zone on my turn. So I was waiting to see.
No, I was not going to let you do that because it's no. He's up there. He's got a job, and a fell collar doesn't sacrifice himself for a job. Come on.
So here, Axis goes. He allocated out focus. I just wanted to make sure I could. Kill the fell collar at the top. I'm getting pretty low on time. I wanted to try to keep up on time while also be scoring. So the score is 2-1 right now. So Axis dropped a razor wall just to get in the way of the fen blades to think about where their placement was going to be. My jacks just dirtle around to be in that zone at the top and in countercharge positions if he does manage to get anything there. I believe Axis. Oh, he just moved after he cast the razor wall because you have to place it completely in your control area, but then you can move and it stays until your following turn. So unless I'm a big cheater head and played that wrong. So I moved
the servitor up to block my king.
Yeah, I just kind of put things in the way. Put things in the way. I have my diffuser in a spot where I'm just touching the zone, so he can't just like move around me or something. He has to actually kill me.
And we get to hear where I'm feeling the crunch. I roll for the fury on the king because I can only take 4 out of the 5 fury off, and he goes berserk. So we figure it out, and he turns around and frenzies into a little
servitor instead of my diffuser, which was nice.
Which was annoying.
Yeah. Oh, and I scored up to 2 points, up to 4 points, and you scored 2. You scored on your flag, and I scored on your zone and on my flag. So.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
And here I'm measuring it out. So my last surviving champion, which was the leader, he runs over to the top zone to try to contest it, which you countercharge.
Yeah. Attack
him. He does make the tough roll, but because I don't have Madrak's spell up, he is knocked down, so he's going to be easy.
I think you have it up, but I think he was out of range.
I haven't activated Madrak yet, so.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, because this is the following turn. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So now I'm sorting out the stone. Using a bit. Doing the activation, which I love the fact that the stone can help fuel itself now.
Yes, that is a really nice rule.
And I cast even ground just to help me survive a little bit longer in case he tries to go for the assassination. I leave myself on 2, then pass it over to you.
Yep. Yeah, and at first I was like, oh, maybe I should try. I'm like, you know what, Dave, don't be dumb. Do what matters. Don't worry about the sprays and stuff. Just contest the middle zone.
The assassination. Go for the assassination.
At this point, I was playing for turn 7 is what I was doing because I knew I could continue to score on my flag and his zone. I know he's going to be able to kill my jack in the bottom, so he'll score on his flag and on his zone. But I'm still going to be up on points, and I am.
I'd score on your zone if I kill that jack.
Or sorry, yes, that's what I mean. The bottom rectangular zone. So so I will be scoring. He'll be scoring 2. I'll be scoring 2, but I'm already up on points, and we're both getting pretty low on time. So I was going to play quick turns, position myself in such a way that he can't really get to me, and it's hard to get in the zone. So.
Here, I move the king just enough so that he can toe into the corner of the zone, and I go to roll out my attacks to destroy that thing, and unfortunately that's when I clock.
Yes.
We did roll it out for fun, and sure enough, the one attack to hit was all it needed because that thing only had 7 health left.
Yeah, exactly.
The king's hitting it like plus
dice
3.
Plus, he's only 16, so so it hits hard. But that was definitely my positioning was definitely off with the heavies. The heavies on the left flank should have been more central to try to get to a point where I could have been into his king, because they can go pretty far with between the feet and the diffuser shot giving beacon. They can go really far, so they should have been more central, but I got very focused on the champs.
There was lots of good learning opportunities for both of us. We're both learning because nobody's a master at this. So
no, it was good. I was glad that I didn't DeathClock. I was definitely getting close. I could have been faster, but I realized when my clock was getting low that I need to push for scenario, push for the long game, push for turn 7, and I was able to swing hard enough to that flank to kind of save me from my poor positioning there. And luckily I was able to get up just enough on the time to I think I had a minute 42 left.
Yes,
so
you did.
My plan was just to basically sit in the zone, continue scoring. If he ran anything into the zone, countercharge, kill it, rinse and repeat until we hit turn 7 or Pat timed out. So
overall, it was a very good game, Dave, and thank you very much. I had a lot of fun, and we, as I say, we both learned a lot of good things.
Yes, that was good. Thank you, Pat, for the game. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow us on Facebook, and we look forward to seeing you for next week's matchup. Thanks, guys.